Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala nabina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ala kulli man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. Abada a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wattaqu yawman turja'una fihi ila Allah summa tuwaffa kullu nafsin ma kasabat wa hum la yuzlamun. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi israh li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today we will do a reminder related to the Day of Judgment, something which will happen ultimately for every believer. That is the Day of Judgment, or the last day, also known as the Day of Resurrection. And this is one of the fundamental beliefs of us Muslim. Anyone can remind us the 6 pillars of Iman? 6 pillars of Iman. What are the 6 pillars of Iman? To believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believe in His messengers, believe in His revealed books, believe in His angels, believe in Yawmul Qiyamah, believe in the destiny, the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the fundamentals of our faith is to believe in the last day. Inshallah, today's topic is very much related to this last day. And the first ayat revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran is Iqra, is to learn. The last ayat revealed in the Quran is found in Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, as He said, وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. He said, fear the day when you will return, or the day in which you will return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of people will not understand why we should fear this day. What is there to be conscious of? What is there to fear about? Why the last day in the first place? It's all linked to a system of justice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established over Himself. One of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the just. The justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must be established at all costs. And why we need justice? Justice is needed because in this dunya, in this life, we take other people's rights without care. Whenever we are in a position of force, when we are in a position of leadership, we overtake people's rights, and nobody is there to caution us. And most of the rulers in this world, they don't account to anybody. For this reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His own wisdom, He established the Day of Judgment. And this hadith today, our topic, is more to do with the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On this day, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in his last sermon, public sermon, delivered in Arafah, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam specifically called upon mankind. He said, "O mankind, remember, you will return back to your Lord and you will be held accountable." Subhanallah. Few weeks later, or few months later after that speech, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the last ayat that I have recited in the Quran. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Be conscious of the day when you will return back to your Lord. He said, summa tuwaffa. And then you will be given back. Every soul will be given back what they have earned, what they have put forward. And nobody will be wronged. Subhanallah. And when we observe the system in which we are living, we notice so much injustice. So much so that the people who are oppressed, they have no other way except to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, oh Allah, you are a witness of this injustice. Be on our side and give us back our right. When Allah will give back the right to the oppressed is on the day of judgment. Those who are oppressing, they think, okay, we get away with it. But no, Allah is only giving them respite. He is only giving them time to seize them with His mighty power to punish them, or to give them time to repent. So, why we will have the day of judgment is a day of gathering, a day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring back the first man, the first human being who was created, to the last one. We'll all be standing in front of our Lord, waiting for His justice. It's a day when we will have perfect justice. Whatever kind of justice we are receiving here today, we will be, whether it is fair or unfair, it will be revised again by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone will have their own right. If you can see from the screen here, a picture of people standing, and the sun is brought closer. Do you know what is the distance between the earth, where we are living right now, to the sun? Do you know? You're asking Sheikh Google. Do you know the kind of difficulties in living we will have if the sun was brought closer to us by half a mile, not a whole mile? 150 million kilometers distance between us and the sun. Imagine the sun being brought closer to the earth. Instead of 150 million kilometers, we have 149 million kilometers. We will all melt on the earth. There will be no living being remaining on the earth. Do you know the amount of energy we consume in a whole year is only the amount of energy the sun emits in 2 minutes. 2 minutes only. The whole human race, with all our technology and machinery, the entire energy we consume in the entire year is equivalent to 2 minutes energy of the sun. And now imagine on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring this sun closer to mankind while we are standing, and we are waiting for judgment. And this standing can last up to 50,000 years in our accounting. Now you can just picture the situation, the distress people will be going through on the day of judgment while waiting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to start judging between us. Now you imagine the sun being close to us by a mile, because according to the hadith, we will see the sun will be brought close to the people above our head. And this is the hadith you will see. On the day of resurrection, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring the sun close to our head. We will be standing and the sun will be close. People will start feeling extreme heat. Extreme heat to a point that you cannot imagine the distress. People will be sweating. And you can see in the hadith by Uqba bin Amir radiallahu anhu, he said, the sun will be brought near to the earth and the people will sweat. Some people will sweat, their sweat will come to their heels. Some people will have their sweat to their chin halfway. Subhanallah. And then some people, the sweat will reach their knees. Some people, it will reach their backside. And so forth. According to the level of sins the people have committed, that's how they will feel the extremity of the heat. Do anyone think we will need cover on that day? Do anybody think we need some shade on that day? Certainly, obviously. Even here in the summer, where we only have 28, 30 degree, 32, you see people sweating profusely, asking for shelter, asking for AC, asking for water, holding umbrellas for a lot of us. How about the day when the sun will be closer to us to only 1 mile? Actually, this hadith, it can be less than a mile, because the wording in the hadith can be meaning also the length of the stick people use to straighten their eyebrows. Subhanallah. Now imagine the distress, the extreme situation in which people will be on that day, looking for a shade, looking for a cover. And then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it is out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 7 categories of people will be shaded under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will be given the honor, the blessing to be sheltered away from this extreme heat, to be covered and honored under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the hadith mentioned 7 type of people specifically, and we will study or we will examine what are the characteristics of those people. The hadith goes by, it said on the day of judgment there will be 7 type of people who will be shaded under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The hadith is authentic, no dispute about it, recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim as well. And the reference, you will find it. So the first category of people who will be shaded on the day of judgment under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, away from this distressful situation and extreme heat, is a just ruler. We'll go to them one by one, inshallah. And the second category is a young man who grows up worshipping his Lord. The third category, a man whose heart is attached to the Masjid. And 2 men who love one another for the sake of Allah and meet and depart on that basis. The 5th one is a man who is called by a woman of rank and beauty to commit sins, and he says, I fear Allah. The 6th category is a man who gives in charity, so much so that when he is giving from his right hand, left hand doesn't know he is giving. He is concealing his charity. And the 7th category is a man who remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he is alone, and his eyes is filled up or are filled up in tears because of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of remembering that he is going to meet his Lord, because of remembering that he will account for his deed. What have you been up to in this dunya? You will account for it, and you sit down and think about it, and you drop in tears. These are the 7 categories. We will go by them one by one, inshallah. So in this narration, the Prophet ﷺ spoke of people who do small acts of goodness, but the reward that is waiting for them is so huge, so big, that none of us should miss these small actions, because it doesn't require you to be a millionaire to say, oh, I'm not rich, that's why I cannot do it. It does not require you so much effort. It's very simple things you need to do in order to qualify for this. So it's open to every one of us. It's open to every believer. Rich and poor, old and young, men and women, everyone can attain this. The status of the 7 people who will be granted the shade on the day of judgment. So when we look at these people, the 7 category of people mentioned in this narration, we will find that they have at least 1 or 2 things in common. What is the most common thing they have? When we go back to the hadith here, you will find the word just ruler. And then you will find a young man who grows up worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have 2 terms there, justice and worship. And on the 3rd one, you will find the heart is attached to the masjid. What are these characteristics telling you? What do you find in these characteristics? What they have in common? Number 1 is sincerity. Number 1 they have in common is sincerity. Number 2 they have is taqwa, meaning the fear or the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somebody who is not conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not care about these matters. And each one of them is specifically having this consciousness of Allah that is guiding them to do the right thing. When we look at the just ruler, for example, a ruler in this dunya is responsible for giving peoples their right, to protect the weak. 2 categories of people the ruler should pay attention to their right. The most vulnerable people is women and children. When we say children, it includes the orphans. These are people who are needy of protection. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasized this in the Quran by giving a whole chapter, that is Surah An-Nisa. The whole chapter is giving us information how to deal with these 2 types of weak people, and orphans and women. A just ruler is in charge of administering the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth while we are waiting for the perfect and justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. Here, the ruler may not see everything. 2 people may have disputes. They go to the ruler, he will judge according to what he hears from them. One of them may be more eloquent than the other in explaining the situation, and he will be given the right. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, one of you, whoever among you, intentionally corrupt the rulers, taking the right of other people, let him take his seat in the hellfire. So if you know intentionally you are taking the right of people because you are more eloquent in speech, you can be more convincing in front of the people making the judgment by taking the right of other people. What you have taken is only pieces of the fire. And this is very common in our time. People who are wealthy, people who have social status, people who have the ears of the community, they take the right of other people without care. And this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that the concept of justice is the ultimate of everything. Because in one of the hadiths, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the heart of all the matter is Islam. The mother of everything is the deen, The mother of everything is the deen. The heart of everything is the prayer. And the ultimate is jihad fi sabilillah. When one has to sacrifice the ultimate for upholding the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon his creation. And we see people dismissing these ideas in our time today. Why somebody is willing at a certain point to sacrifice anything and everything they have or they stand for to uphold the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have no personal benefit in it, but they see oppression, they stand against it. The first martyrs of Islam, the first person killed in the cause of Islam is someone who stood up against oppression. They spoke words of justice in front of a tyrant ruler. So the opposite is valued in Islam. A ruler who is just has the highest status. Among the seven, the first one mentioned is the just ruler. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. He does not accept injustice. The main reason of establishing the day of judgment is to give back people their right. And giving back people their right is justice. So the just ruler, the concept of justice, as we know, holds a central position in our belief in Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, he said, and do not let the hatred of people cause you to act unjustly. That is nearer to piety. It is not because you don't like certain category of people from one coming from a country or from a type of color that you have to be inclined toward injustice. You have to deal with people justly. That's why in Islam, if somebody is being mistreated in one country, the people living in his country of origin has no reason to retaliate on the people who are living from that country where this citizen has been mistreated, because those people may not have anything to do with the injustice he's been victim of. You only deal with the people who have committed the oppression. You cannot retaliate. For example, somebody from Pakistan, they go to Guinea, they've been beaten, and then in Pakistan, we start searching for all the people from Guinea and beat them up. It doesn't work like that. Because those people, they have nothing to do with what has happened in Guinea. If somebody from Hong Kong has been mistreated in the Philippines, the people of Hong Kong have no right to come here and look at all the Filipinos and start mistreating them. It doesn't work like that. The concept of justice is to do with the individual who has committed the wrong. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring this justice to every one of us. He mentioned in the Quran, وَلَا تَجْرُ وَاجِرَةٌ وِجْرَ أُخْرَى. No soul will bear the burden of another soul. The one who has committed the sin is the one responsible for it. It mentioned in many places in the Quran, he said, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. A day when money or your relatives will not benefit you. What will benefit you is your heart that is purely submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So nobody will come and say, okay, I take it for him. In this world, you can find somebody in debt, in difficulty, you say, no, I will pay it off. But in the hereafter, everyone is myself, myself, myself. And we know in the Quran, يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ, and so forth. The day when somebody will be running away from his parents, from his father, from his mother. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now telling us what will benefit you on that day in Surah Naba. He said, Innal lil muttaqina mafaza. Those who have taqwa, they will be blessed on that day. And throughout the Quran, Allah is calling the people to taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this just ruler is administering justice based on fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will caution him. And we know from the Salaf, from the righteous companion of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who we associate most to justice among the Caliph. Omar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. This man was sitting down in Medina. He said, I fear if a camel or an elephant fall in a mountain in Iraq, Allah will caution me about it. He's worried about the animals in the forest, about the justice among the people. The next one among the Salaf is Omar ibn Abdul Aziz. This man, whenever we mention in concept of justice, we have to mention them. And these type of people, inshallah, Allah will shed them under his throne on the day of judgment. May Allah make us among them. Making the dua alone is not sufficient. You have to take the step toward it. Whenever you are in a position to administer justice, whether it's in your family or your workplace or in any situation where you are the one in charge, make sure you deal with the people justly. That is attached to another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, we are all shepherds. Every one of us will be held accountable for what we are looking after. Remember this hadith? The head of the family, the ruler, number one first, and then the husband in the family or whoever is in charge. The women are in charge of the affairs of their husband when the husband is not there, and so forth. Every one of us will be held accountable for what he has been given responsibility to look at. So we have no right to sit back when we see injustice. We have to stand against injustice. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, Allah does not bless a people among whom a weak man is not given his right. You see somebody right has been taken and you sit back, you don't say anything about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not bless such people. Such society will not prosper. They will not grow because oppression is being done. And those people who have received this mistreatment, they have a recourse. They have a way to call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there is no barrier. They lift their hands to Allah and say, oh Allah, you are a witness to this oppression. I'm calling for your justice. Allah will surely hear it and he will hold those people accountable. So the just ruler is the first person. Whenever justice or oppression is done in any land, the ruler is the number one who is not fulfilling his duty. Number two in this line is a young man who grow up in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does it imply? We have, mashallah, young people in the audience, and I'm sure there are young people watching us online as well. This is an encouragement to you, because it is the time when you are able, you are fit. That's when Allah needs you more, and that's when Shaitan also needs you. Shaitan is needing you to go and commit mischief. Allah is commanding you to surrender to his orders. Which one will you choose? You have a choice here. You are able to run, go clubbing, go to all areas where mischief is done. You are also able to stand at night and pray even 2 rakat, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are able to attend the congregational prayers. You are able to perform Hajj because you are fit. You are able to do all kind of action in order to earn halal rizq, halal money, and pay zakat and support Muslims through that. Support your parents. Support dawah. Where are you using your force? Where are you using your youth? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has special place for a youth who will leave all the affairs of this dunya and focus on meeting his Lord. As the ayat said, O mankind, remember the day you will meet your Lord. That day is not a joke. So a youth who is conscious of this, and they leave all these temptations around, they focus on building a strong and sincere relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is worthy of praise. It's not when somebody is in the very old age. They know for sure certainty is near, death is coming, and they say, no, it's now time for repenting. I used not to pray, now I'm going to start praying my 5 daily prayer. I usually don't do any act of charity, I'm going to start being charitable. A youth who is already from young age until old age, or until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes them back, they are conscious of this. Allah has a special place for them. He will shade them under his throne on the day of judgment. He said, one of the great scholars, he said, from the success of a youth is that Allah guide him to a scholar of the Sunnah. Subhanallah, full of wisdom. Because the act of worship is not just to do them anyhow. Is to do the act of worship according to the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is to do acts of worship that are in line with the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember the condition for any act of worship to be accepted. Number one, this act has not to be commanded by Allah. Allah has ordered this act of worship to be done. Number two, the act of worship has to be performed the way the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed it, and the way the Salaf, meaning his companion and those who came after them, they followed, they understood it. It's not any way I want or I feel this is the right way to do. Act of worship have to be followed by, you cannot invent it, basically. You are a follower. You are not an innovator in terms of act of worship. In terms of dunya, we should be innovators. We should invent things. We should put things forward that are beneficial. But the act of worship, we only follow. Samina wa ta'ana. We hear, we obey. That's it. You have no room to come and make up your own. So, when a youth is guided to a scholar of the Sunnah, it means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed this youth to learn the proper knowledge, the proper path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless him by following the Sunnah. There is reward for it. There is a punishment for going away from the Sunnah. Then many Muslims in our time waste their youth thinking that they will pray later on. Because now I'm young. Your youth is only once. Let's leave it. You have to enjoy your youth. If you don't enjoy now, you will enjoy later on. A lot of the sisters will think I will wear the hijab later when I'm old. A lot of the men will say I will be in the congregational prayer later on. He is postponing and keeping it forward. You pushing it for a day that is not guaranteed. And you are giving priorities to what Allah has already guaranteed you. Allah has guaranteed you how much money you will earn. Allah has already guaranteed you what position you will occupy in your company. Allah has already guaranteed you how much money you will leave for your family after your death. We are running for what is guaranteed, and we are leaving what is not guaranteed. Are we wise? Are we wise in doing so? No. The wise person is one who runs after what is not guaranteed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam that every one of you, this hadith is hadith Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu, he said, every one of you is created in stages, 20 days, 40 days, 40 days, 40 days. After every stage, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send an angel to do certain things. On the last form, Allah will send the angel to give you the 5 things mentioned in Surah Luqman, the last ayat of Surah Luqman. What you will earn, how long you will live, where you will die, when you will die. These things is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will order the angel to write this. Nothing will be subtracted. So we should run and rush for the things that are not guaranteed. Allah did not specify, I guarantee Jannah to Mr. So and so, unless you perform what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded you. There is no guarantee for you in Jannah. But there is a guarantee for you whether you believe or disbelieve what you will eat today and what you will eat tomorrow. So let's us make effort. We run for what is not guaranteed by performing our duties toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and leave aside, don't give priority to what Allah has guaranteed you. So we say when people think when they are old, they will start praying. Maybe you don't reach this old age. And then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this another narration, he said, take advantage of 5 things before 5 things happen to you. And one of the advantage you will need to take when we are young before we are old. Because when you are young, as I said, that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs you to use your strength and worship Allah more. When we go to the Masjid, we see a lot of people sitting on chairs now. They don't stand, they make ruku and they do sajda. And this is the complete form of the prayer. It's not defective. Any form of the prayer that does not include standing, bowing down, meaning ruku, and making the sajda on the floor, putting your forehead, prostrating by the 7 parts the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned in the hadith. 7 parts of the body should be prostrating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any prayer that is lacking this is defective. You can only compensate it if you used to perform the prayer correctly before you have a condition of back pain now that is preventing you from doing so. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take your record when you were young and able to still consider you performing the prayer perfectly. Otherwise, the benefit you will have is reduced benefit of your prayer. Now imagine going in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. You didn't take advantage of your youth when you are able to stand in prayer, and when you are able to fast, when you are able to work and earn money to give zakat and give charity, when you are able to help people physically with their needs, and you wait until you are old, you are not able to do that, it remains a wish only. And one of the regrets most people will have on the day of judgment, immediately after death, he said, وَيَقُولُ رَبِّ لَوْلَا أَخَّرْتَنِي, oh Allah, return us back for a time so that we will do action of good deeds, we will give in charity. Where were you when you were able to give in charity? What did you do with your wealth? This is one of the strongest advice the Prophet ﷺ gave us. He said, take advantage of 5 things before 5 things happen to you. And one of them is your youth before old age, your health before you are sick, and your wealth before poverty, your free time before you are preoccupied, and your life before death. So profound in few words. You reflect upon this hadith, it will shake you. And then the third category of people mentioned is a man whose heart is attached to the masjid. What does it mean that your heart is attached to the masjid? We all know the Prophet ﷺ encouraged men in particular to perform their prayers in congregation. We are encouraged to attend the congregational prayer. There is huge reward for it. There is reward for going, reward for coming, reward for being there. Praying in congregation has the reward 27 times more reward than praying alone. Not only that, when you are praying in congregation, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ mentioned in an authentic narration, when the Imam is reciting, he said, Waladdaleen, and you say Ameen, whomsoever Ameen coincide with the Ameen of the angels, his sin will be forgiven. This only happens in congregation. You can't do it on your own. It has to be in congregation. In another narration, the Prophet ﷺ said, whomsoever make wudu, walk into the masjid, every step you are going toward the masjid, one sin is forgiven and you are increased in rank. Allah is removing one sin from you and He is elevating you in rank in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So having the heart attached to the masjid, it doesn't call for us to seclude ourselves in the masjid. You say, okay, now I don't need to do anything. I have to stay in the masjid. I don't do any other. No, you have to balance your dunya and your akhirah. You have to go out and work and come to the prayer. وَإِذَا نُودِيَ لِلصَّلَاةِ مِنْ يَوْمِ الْجُمَعَةِ فَاسْعَوْا إِلَى ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. When Allah is called, when the call to the prayer is made, you have to go to the prayer. But when you are finished, go back and carry on with your routine. Go with your life. You don't have to seclude yourself in the masjid. You have to have love to attend the congregational prayer because there is benefit in it. Your heart is attached to the masjid. So it not only those people who will seclude themselves in the masjid that is mentioned here. So we said in another narration that is mentioned here, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu said, whenever a man is walking to the masjid, and as long as he remains, you walk to the masjid, you sit down, as long as you remain in your place of prayer, it is considered you are in a state of praying, worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning the angels are making dua for you, saying, oh Allah bless him, oh Allah forgive him, and something. So imagine you are just going to the masjid and sitting, waiting for the prayer. While you are waiting there, reward is recorded for you, as if you were praying, even if you are not doing zikr at that time. Now imagine you are making zikr while you are waiting. You're doing Subhanallah, Astaghfirullah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Walillahi alhamd, and so forth. So many other benefits you can reap while you are waiting. So when you have your heart attached to the masjid, this is showing love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Instead of having your heart attached to any dunya things, have your heart attached to Allah and the symbols of Islam. So the role of those in authority in the mosque comes here. I see someone laughing as if this is addressing me. The people who have authority running the masjid, they should make the masjid a place, welcoming place for the Muslims, a place where you feel you need to go and have tranquility. When you are in the masjid, people should not come, I mean the people in charge should not come and start interfering with you, disturbing you, giving you the urge not to go to the masjid. Very unfortunately, we have situation in many places where the people in charge, they are making the people dislike the masjid. They are making the people not want to go to pray. Because, number one, the act of worship they are doing is not done correctly according to the Sunnah, according to the proper teaching of Islam, or they start classifying people, you are from this sect, you are from that sect, and really putting you off going to the masjid. And this is something very serious, because if you are causing the people to stay away from worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are falling under the category of those people who are standing on the way of Allah. You are standing on the path of Islam. You are blocking Islam from progressing. This is dangerous. May Allah protect us, give us the wisdom to run our masajid with good understanding. And then, number 4, two people who love one another for the sake of Allah, and they meet for this purpose and they depart from that. They depart on that basis. SubhanAllah, for people to love one another for the sake of Allah, this is not something light. A lot of people love one another for other reasons. For many are doing this for personal interest, not for the sake of Allah. When you love somebody for the sake of Allah, few things will outstand. You may not like the physical characteristic of that person. You may not like their color. You may not like their country of origin. You may not even like the way they speak. But because of their piety and attachment to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you love them. The love is conditional that the person is doing the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you are hating them because they are blocking, they hating the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the true love. It's not because when I visit this brother, he will give me some loan. It's not because when I go there, I will eat some biryani. It's not because when I go there, I will receive certain favors. You are going there for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. You have no other reason. You have no other purpose for visiting. MashaAllah, we have someone who is visiting us right now here in this center purely for the sake of Allah. May Allah reward you and accept your good deeds. So it does not matter what the person wears. Some people will be wearing white, black, red, whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is the relationship you see between this person and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those who have mutual love for the sake and glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have pillars of light and will be envied by martyrs and prophets. Subhanallah, this is an authentic narration collected by Imam Tirmidhi and Imam Ahmad. People who love one another for the sake of Allah alone on the day of judgment, they will be shaded under the throne of Allah. But also the martyrs, people who give up their soul and everything that belonging to them for the sake of Allah, they will envy those people who love one another for the sake of Allah. Is it difficult? This is one of the simplest things to do. Just see somebody engage in doing good deeds, and you get yourself attached to them because you are also somebody who wants to do good. So the fifth type of person is someone who resists a temptation from the opposite gender. This is one of the most challenging. The hadith is mentioning is a man who is called by a woman of status to commit act of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The man say, I fear Allah. The opposite is true. So don't take it one way. It's when a woman is called by a man of status to commit act of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she said, I fear Allah. Subhanallah, you see the statement, fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sufficient for your salvation. That's all Allah is requiring from us. You have this taqwa of Allah in your heart, that is sufficient. That's what Allah wants from us. You are conscious that Allah will caution you about the act you are about to do, and you abstain from it, you stay away from it. Said Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu mentioned in Sahih Muslim, he said, the world is sweet and green, and verily Allah is going to install you successors upon in order to see how you act. He will make you inheritors in this land in order to see who among you will act righteousness. This is very similar to the beginning of Surah Al-Mulk. Tabarakalladzi biyadihil mulk wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Alladzi khalaqal mauta wal hayata liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala. So who among you is going to act righteousness? He says, so avoid the allurement of women. Verily, the first trial of the children of Israel was caused by women. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam specifically warned us about this time we are living right now. The test that was given to the children of Israel, Prophet Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, one of the tests is attraction by women. And we have that surrounding us left and right today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to protect our iman, all of us. And also in Surah Nisa, I will not read it, the references in the PowerPoint. The sixth category of person who will be under the shade of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a completely selfless person giving charity. What does it mean? Selfless person giving in charity. To an extent that when he gives from the right hand, the left hand doesn't know. What does it imply? The hands don't watch each other. But it's a metaphorical way to say that you are giving it and concealing it. You don't give so that people will say, oh, he is generous. However, if you are a ruler, you are a leader in a certain position, you are an imam, for example, and if you know by donating to a cause, other people will follow your example to donate. In this case, you can make your donation known so that people will know, oh, if he has given, this cause is worthy of support. A lot of us have no problem in our action publicly. A lot of us have problems in our actions privately. Donating in charity sincerely for the sake of Allah require internal review from us. You don't give so that people will praise you. I give you an example of Zainul Abidin, the son of Ali ibn Talib, radiallahu anhuma, grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he was in Medina, He used to go at night to people's doorstep, distribute food. He gave food to 100 families. Every single night, he will go and drop food on their doorstep at night. And people were wondering where this food is coming from. They did not realize until after he passed away. When he died, people started complaining they are hungry. There is no food in Medina. And the people who washed his body, his janaza, they noticed traces of marks on his body because he used to carry it on his shoulders. So they realized this is the man who used to distribute this food. How is it possible 100 families you are giving to them every night, people don't even know who is donating? We have people donating today in charity, mashallah, is good, but the whole world will know somebody has donated 100,000. It will be publicity. If we are not careful, the real showing off will ruin every act of deed we have done. May Allah protect us. So we said giving in charity, not like what we see today, where we have mosque notice board. We will see somebody has donated so and so with his name and contact number there to praise the person. No benefit whatsoever. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. The seventh category of people mentioned in the hadith is a person who remembers Allah in private and shed tears in doing so. SubhanAllah. We often see people in congregational prayer crying. Do we cry when we are alone praying at night? Because we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Crying is something intimate. It's something, an expression of emotion. So when somebody is crying, it implies they have been touched somewhere by something. But if this crying is done for show in public and you cannot do the same in private or more, you are losing more. And the person who will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment is somebody on their own, sitting down, reflecting upon the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the blessing Allah has given them, and what is waiting them ahead in terms of standing in front of Allah on the day of judgment. You don't know where you will go. You have no certainty your deeds have been 100% accepted. That's where the intention comes. Inshallah, we'll do a class about the status of the intention in Islam. This is very important because it's all revolving around that. What you have in your heart, you are pouring it out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to stand up at night reciting the Quran in prayer and weeping, crying. One night he was praying. Aisha radiallahu anha was putting her feet in front of him, and the tears of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam touched her. When he finished, she asked him, "Oh Messenger of Allah, why you have to go through this? Why you have to stand all night praying? Not all night, most of the night praying until your feet go swollen. Why you have to cry? Allah has forgiven your past sins and your future sins, as mentioned in the Quran." He replied, "Oh Aisha, I should be a thankful servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." The companion, we know from many narration Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he used to cry. Whenever he is reciting the Quran, he cannot even finish some of the ayat. He will start weeping and crying. Remember the hadith when the Prophet ﷺ asked Aisha, go and tell Abu Bakr to come and lead the people in prayer when he was almost passing away. She said he will not be able to. His heart is too soft. He will be crying. Do we cry in private, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reciting his ayat? We should. There is every reason to do that. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you knew what I know, what I knew, you will laugh a little and weep much, because he has been shown Jannah. He has been shown hellfire as well in his night journey, Al-Isra wal-Miraj. If we know the description he gave about this hellfire, definitely we'll abstain from engaging into too much laughing and playing. We should concentrate more in building our akhirah. We should try to secure our place in Jannah. Said, how often do we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in seclusion and then move to tears? How much do we laugh and how little do we weep? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there is nothing more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than 2 drops and 2 marks. A tear shed due to the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You remember Allah, you start crying. That drop of tear is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then a drop of blood spilled in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, standing against oppression, and the person is wounded or killed in that path. And then another 2 marked is the mark caused in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a mark caused in fulfilling one of the duties made obligatory by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. MashaAllah, we have a lot of brothers, they have a lot of marks on their body, not because they are for any other reason, as a sign they are prostrating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are the 7 categories of people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will gather under his shade on the day of judgment. However, there are other people who will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala apart from these 7 people mentioned there. And those are the people mentioned in another hadith. We will find number 1 is those who fight for the sake of Allah, meaning those who stand to establish the justice of Allah, and those who help the mujahideen, those who are helping those who are standing to uphold the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who defer payment of debt for debtors, subhanallah. Somebody is owing you money, you find their circumstances is not befitting, they are not able to pay you, you give them time. You agree they will pay you this week, and you find that they are not in a position to pay you. You discover this, you defer the payment, or you will give it up altogether. You find that this person is very much in need, they are not able to meet their own personal needs. You say, take it for the sake of Allah. For these sadaqah, Allah will put you under his shade. And those who help people who are heavily in debt. So not only the one who has given the person in debt, in loan, but you find somebody is in loan and they are not able to pay, you come out of your way to help them. This also is beloved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the person who engage into these actions is one of those Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will shed. And the people who help the slave who have drawn out contract of manumission, meaning that they have decided, they have agreed with their master that they will free themselves by paying him some compensation. So, and then you find them struggling to meet that, you help them. And this is one of these blessing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. He freed Bilal radiallahu anhu, and others. Aisha radiallahu anha freed some slaves. and many other companions. So, and those who work to the mosque, meaning to the masjid, sincere and honest traders as well. In your business, you are sincere, you are honest. These qualify you to be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you look at all these things, you find that they are not difficult things to do. It's very simple steps, but the reward is very huge. However, there are other people, those who take what is due to them and no more. Meaning people who only hold to their right. They don't take anything more than what is due to them. And we don't have much time to elaborate on all these orders. However, there are other people who will be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will be sent to hellfire for withholding the zakat. I will not dwell further into this, but inshallah, I hope this has opened your perspective on doing these small acts of good deeds that will make any one of us qualify to be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are very small steps accessible to every Muslim, to every believer. I urge every one of you to be at least in one of the categories. If you cannot put all the categories in yourself, be at least in one of them, inshallah. May Allah accept from us, forgive us any mistake. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Anybody have any questions? You know, I don't have questions.
Please. Any question related to this topic?
Why didn't you put any category on the Dawa side?
Why don't you put any category?
The brother is asking, why don't I put any category on the Dawa side or people who will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment? The reason is, I am not the one who is deciding these categories. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who decides who are the people who qualify to be under his shade on the day of judgment. And this is narrated to us by our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And nobody has any right to add anyone in this category or to take out anyone. Doing so amount to kufr. SubhanAllah, it's very serious. If I come by my own will now and say, okay, apart from these 7, we have also my brothers from my mother. All the people from my mother, they are qualified also. This is a joke. Don't take it. I'm not adding it. I say if somebody adds like that, this amount to disbelief by just making that statement. And if somebody comes and say, no, somebody, a youth who is spending the time in worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instead of engaging in dunya matters does not fit into this category, also amount to kufr, disbelief. So we take these things very seriously, and inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will forgive us any mistake.
But the virtue of those who are giving dawah outside the shade is...
The virtue of those giving dawah outside this hadith, of course, there are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran the duty of dawah. He mentioned in Surah Nahl, chapter 16, ayah 125. He said, call to the path of your Lord. And beside that, Surah Al-Asr gave the qualities of those people who are successful. Wal-Asr innal insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq. Those who are calling to the truth. Wa tawasaw bis sabr. And while they remain patient in doing that. Calling to the truth is dawah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. Who is doing the best speech except the one who is calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the best speech you can ever do, is to call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And many other ayat in the Quran and hadith, we cannot count them. Jazakallah khairan.
Any other questions, brothers? Yes, brother. Sweating. He's talking about the sweat.
Sorry.
Just elaborate a little bit more on the sweating.
On the day of judgment, why people will be sweating? Because of the proximity of the sun, because of the heat they are feeling. As I said, if we say the amount of energy consumed by the entire world, mankind, in our time now, is for a whole year, is only equivalent to 2 minutes of energy from the sun. Now imagine the sun being close to us. Is the distance between our heads and the sun is only 1 mile or less. Now imagine what kind of sweating that will cause, what kind of heat we will feel. And definitely people will be sweating according to the level of sins they have committed. This is Jazakumullah khair.
Yes. Any other questions? Yes, brother.
Sorry, so those people that will not be under the shade, is their sweating, is it an atonement for their sins they have committed? Or?
Right, the brother is asking an important question. The sins, the people who will be sweating while waiting for the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this day, is it an atonement for their sins? No. Atonement of sins happens in this dunya. Once you cross over, there is no more atonement. It's now only for the person to receive what is due to them. Atonement meaning forgiveness. Is it a way to remove the sins they have committed? No. Forgiveness of sins happens only in this dunya. Forgiveness of sins will not happen on the day of judgment unless we have the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ and others. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take into consideration, but that's another step. Not the sweating we will have while standing waiting for judgment. This, it doesn't amount to forgiveness, it amounts to punishment for the sins the people have committed. And the people will feel the heat according to the level of sins, or they will feel less heat according to the level of Iman they have. So this is important to note.
Last question. Anybody? No? I'll ask.
Please.
Youth. Age, please.
Okay, the Sharia doesn't give specific age for somebody to be considered youth. However, when we look at the hadith, we look at the Quran also, somebody is considered youth from the time they discern between the right and the wrong. For example, for a male, the minimum is when they reach the age of 15. According to fiqh matters, there are some differences in that, but when the person reaches the age of 15 is considered already, you are in your youth. You are among those who are bound to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before this age, more or less you are innocent. But if the person is able to have dreams that all the men have, mean wet dream, before this age, is also considered already among those who are bound to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before this, your worship is optional. Your worship is optional. If you don't do, there is no sin on you. But if you do, there is reward for you and for those who are training you, whether it's your parents or people looking after you. But for women, the most indicative sign is the menstruation. And even that also, there is another option that we are not going into because it's also fiqh matters. It will bring some kind of debate which I don't want to enter into. But these are indication. However, when we look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning about Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam. He is considered as youth at the age of around 30 years old. When he commanded Prophet Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, Ya Yahya khuzil kitab bi quwwa, hold the book with strength. At that time, Prophet Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam is already a grown-up man, you may say, in our time. It's not to say he was 10, 15 years old, but considered as youth. Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, when he received the prophetic mission, he was a youth. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, when he was dropped in the well and picked up by the caravan, he is already considered in his youth younger than Prophet Yahya and Prophet Jesus, peace be upon them all. So and so forth. As for other prophets, like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he received the mission of prophethood at the age of 40, still considered as young man. Yes, subhanallah. But that's why we cannot give a specific age in the Sharia to say this age to that age. But we look at based on criteria where the Prophet ﷺ said the pen is lifted upon 3 categories of people. One of the category is the innocent one. From the time you lose your innocence, now you considered among those who are, if you do act of worship and consistently throughout your life, you fall under this category mentioned in this hadith, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan.
Allah is the one.